Do you hear voices in your head? I do. The reality is we all do. It's a part of the human condition. It's an almost non-stop conversation that we have with ourselves every moment of every day about everything going on in our lives. 100% of us are subject to this. What most of us don't know is that the quality of the voices in our head tend to determine the quality of our business and the quality of our lives. This belief system, this mental map, ultimately determines our behavior and the choices that we make. Let's look at an example. I had a client once, a highly qualified financial advisor, had been in business for better than 20 years. He was extremely knowledgeable. He had incredible client-facing skills. He had a $2 million practice. He didn't really want for anything. In a conversation about his brand and why he was positioning himself the way that he was, we ended up having a conversation about his fees. In particular, about how his fees were lower than either the competition or his experience or success would normally dictate. We went on for about an hour, and there was a very circular conversation, and I realized that we were having an out there conversation. So finally I stopped him, looked him in the eyes, and said, "What's holding you back? What are you really afraid of?" That caught him off guard. He sat for a minute in quiet contemplation. He looked up at me and said, "What if someone says no?" So we had another conversation about the fact that he was successful. He didn't want for anything financially. If the practice went away tomorrow, he would be fine, in fact. He didn't need one more client or one more dollar. And yet, in this situation, without ever thinking about it, challenging it, or questioning it, he was lowering his bar, his standard, without even knowing it. And that is a perfect example of the voices in our head. When we pulled that conversation out, when we had a conversation about the value that he provided, the time he wanted to spend, the number of clients that he could serve, it became very black and white. He was more than able to increase his fees relative to the value that he charged, and his practice and his clients would be well served by it.